Good evening. My name is Richard Fisher. I live at 120 Fraser Road here in Warrenton, 20186. I came here tonight to voice my opposition to 3 separate projects. With the time limit, I'm probably going to get to 1. First, let me give you a little bit of background on myself. All right, there's no one here who's more pro-veteran than I am. I've been a Marine for 29 years between reserves and active duty. I've done combats in both peacetime and war. All right, I moved to Warrenton 10 years ago. I did so although I knew I would have to drive to DC every day that I was not deployed. And I've done that for 10 years. And I'm deployed about 5 months a year. I moved to an established neighborhood in Warrenton to stay away from large community problems. We live next to a church, and there's traffic there and congestion once a week. I want you to know I am against this Heroes Bridge project as currently proposed at the Methodist Church. Veterans should be integrated into the communities they serve, not isolated into veterans' villages. The town of Warrenton that I know of has at least 2 assisted living facilities. If this was truly about veterans, then that money could be spent to expand those facilities with extra space specifically for veterans, integrated using the overhead that currently exists to take care of them. I don't want small home space and increased infrastructure where there's currently green space. My wife and kids run and ride their bikes down Church Street. Has this council done a study to determine what will happen to housing values if this project goes through? Have any of you spoken to the residents on Church Street or Fraser Road that will be most directly affected? I have, and my neighbors don't want this project. I challenge you to ask us by referendum or survey whether or not we want this project before you allow it to move through. All right, let me close with these last 2 projects. The biggest problem I have here is I'm hearing about these things secondhand. I'm not hearing about it from the council in any official way. I understand that there is a discussion to convert the old Warrenton Middle School into a drug rehab facility and the fields behind it into Section 8 housing. I don't know why a bedroom community with no visible industry requiring low-skilled, low-wage labor needs more Section 8 housing. How much of our police resources are currently used in areas where Section 8 housing is available in Warrenton? Do you want your wife running by a drug rehab facility or Section 8 housing? Do you want your children to have to walk by it on their way to Carousel? Well, I don't. I don't believe there's any need to have those kind of projects here in this town. Manassas and Gainesville are right up the road, and they have those problems, and they can keep them. Finally, I just want you to know, if these projects continue to go through, if this is the way the town is going to go, then you can tax someone else on the reduced value of my home because I won't stay, right? I won't. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Jonathan McQuillam. I live at 60 Fraser Road. I'm here the same as Mr. Fisher in opposition of the Heroes Bridge. I've been a lifelong resident of Fauquier. I've lived in town for the past 10 years. My wife and I chose Fraser Road because it's a nice, safe, quiet community to raise our family. We have 2 wonderful kids. They go up and down the streets. They have long relationships with our neighbors. Yet now I'm hearing that there's going to be a project which potentially has the chance of uprooting the values that we've been searching for. All right. I've been informed that we have potentially 44 to 50 homes, mini homes, that are going to be placed on 5 acres on on the church grounds. Not only that, but I've been informed that these residents will be bringing issues related to PTSD, depression, and substance abuse. I understand that a lot of us are dealing with a lot of issues within our lives due to a lot of political natures, or even COVID, or anything else that might be pressuring us. But these are concerns that I have with my wife that's walking through the neighborhoods with my kids. Furthermore, I do have a concern with the traffic. It is a small neighborhood. With that increased number of potential residents, we will have increase of vehicles driving up and down the streets. That is a concern for my kids' safety. I have a concern for the public utilities, the water and sewer. I've heard that they're already need repair, and that's a financial burden that's going to be placed on me, the taxpayer, as well. So what is that going to do if I have 44 to 50 more residents that are going to be placed in this area? The little homes, which I've been told that are going to be coming. I don't know what that's going to be doing to my residential value, right? I don't make a lot of money, but what I do rely on is my potential of real estate value later on for retirement, all right? Whether or not that is a sale because of this project that's coming in, or whether or not I can rely on that to pass it on to my kids. But if I do have a community such as that coming in, that is going to seriously make an impact on my financial well-being. Once again, I just want to state my opposition to Heroes Bridge. Thank you.
I'm Donald Bromley. I live at 320 Church Street, directly across from the Methodist Church where this Heroes Bridge project is proposed. My driveway is directly across from the entrance of the Methodist Church. So I know what the traffic is already like in that neighborhood, probably more than anyone. And I can't see where we could support this church. It'll get worse. They have, besides the regular church services, they have a preschool there where kids are dropped off and picked up daily. There are Boy Scouts and other activities in the evenings. There's holiday concerts where there's not enough parking now. People fill the street when they have holiday concerts there. I've heard that only a handful of these residents will be driving. At this time, they need to plan for worst case, of course, for the number of residents. But if they're not driving themselves, then others will have to drive for them. They'll have to go to, there will be the traffic involved with building the properties. There'll be construction vehicles involved. That will be at least a year or more to put all those houses in. There'll be home deliveries for groceries and ready-to-eat meals. By the paperwork I see, there's Paw Patrol, so animal people to take care of their pets coming in, care packages. There'll be volunteers coming, friends and families coming. They have battle buddy visits, and these are senior citizens. There'll be emergency response people needed there regularly. Besides, they're looking at traffic coming in and exiting, one directly across from my driveway, the other at the end now near Moser Road. Moser is a very thin road. So is Fraser and Fairfax. Even though they say there's going to be right-hand traffic only leaving that exit, people will be coming through Moser and Fairfax and Fraser to enter that. It's a cut through now. I use it myself to cut through so I can avoid traffic on Waterloo and Sullivan and Broadview. I go through there almost every day. If there's 46 more people in there, they will be using that as a cut through. Also, I have written to both the Heroes Bridge people and the pastors of the church about alternate plans for this property. They could enter and exit on Sullivan Road. They don't want to do that because they say that's where they want to put their retention pond. There will be a retention pond. There's a flooding area, in that location now. They could put the retention pond underground. They could bridge over the retention pond. They could put the retention pond up where they want to put these houses and put the houses down on Sullivan Road. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Lori Carney. I live at 167 Brenda Court here in Warrenton, and I want to comment on two things, the Amazon issue and on the Heroes Bridge. With respect to Amazon, my only comment is that as a FOIA specialist with the federal government, I'm very well acquainted with the legalities and aspects of the Freedom of Information Act at the federal level. Having said that, with respect to the state level, I find it very interesting that 45 pages are withheld in their entirety. In my experience with the federal government in processing FOIA requests for agency records, for several administrations now, the emphasis has been on transparency and openness. So when I see 45 pages that have been withheld in full, that kind of raises my hair on the neck. So I just think that that's kind of unusual with respect to those 45 pages being withheld in full. With respect to non-disclosure agreement for employees, my experience has been at the federal level, and I say that again, at the federal level, If you're an employee and you're involved in a settlement agreement with your agency and another employee, you're going to have NDAs. But in the course of doing your official work, you're not signing NDAs. So when I'm discussing my work in a lawsuit or something, there's no NDAs involved in that. I'm doing my official work, and it should be available to the public. With respect to Heroes Bridge and the Path Foundation supporting it, I'd just like to ask, are there any members of the Town Council that have any involvement with either Heroes Bridge or the Path Foundation in any capacity? Okay. Thank you, Jay.
I've met with Heroes Bridge many times,
Okay,
but not
that's
in an
fine.
official capacity.
I'm just asking for the record. As a veteran myself, I don't think it's improper or inappropriate for a veteran to be critical of a housing project or a project to support veterans in our community. However, I think that with respect to the local community here and the residential area, that that should be taken into consideration, the needs of these veterans. My understanding from someone is that these are mostly elderly veterans who are, old, blind, deaf, what have you. And I can recall when I first moved here, when my husband and I first moved here in 2004, the big controversy back then was Home Depot and later on a 55-plus community over by that property. And one of the complaints was, well, they won't be taxing our schools, but because they're elderly, they're going to be taxing our EMS services and et cetera. So I hope that's been taken into consideration with respect to putting into our residential area a community that may have exceptional needs of our resources. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for listening to me. Have a good evening.
Hey, thank you. Matthew Groves, 56 Fraser. Just want to thank you guys for doing this. I do know there's a lot of tough decisions that have to get made. And as a veteran myself, I do living in the community. I would respectfully reject the Heroes Bridge project. I think there's some other more appropriate spots that could be performed. There's some other facilities that would be better utilized for. I know that Bent Hill is currently in development for a larger facility that could house these types of issues. I mean, obviously, I've got two kids. It's a peaceful, quiet, very quiet neighborhood. That's kind of one of the reasons why we purchased here, and respectfully would like to keep it in that manner. So just want to thank you again for your time and appreciate it.
Sorry, guys, I was here to pay my water bill. Oh, just had to get some humor there. Hello, Town Council. Thanks for all the work you guys do. My name is James Hanover. I live at 85 Fraser Road in Warrenton. I've been a Warrenton Ward 5 resident for over 17 years. My wife and I have been involved in the community in many ways and raised a family here in Warrenton and love it. I want to also state that I have friends who are, and I have relatives who are veterans, some of who've lost limbs. I understand the need of this, and I understand the mission of Heroes Bridge to be admirable and necessary for our community. The proposal, however, for that Heroes Bridge Village being presented to the Planning Commission next week, however, has many of our residents concerned, as you've heard. The proposal wasn't really clearly communicated to any of the surrounding community by either the Warrenton United Methodist Church nor Heroes Bridge as an organization. Until now, I've not heard of any concrete plans, and you've been told that there's really none in the works, although I found by researching the Heroes Bridge website that they've been in some discussions about this for a few years, since 2020. The project as proposed will not serve the long-term interest of disadvantaged veterans who are seeking affordable housing, as it cannot expand beyond a 3.9 acre perimeter. It's in the middle of an R10 zoned neighborhood designated by our 2040 comprehensive plan as medium density residential. This proposal will put 44 rental units on less than 4 acres of property. And that's not going to be a medium density environment. Given the growing needs for affordable housing in general for seniors and veterans, it can't expand in its proposed space either. It only will solve a small part of the problem. To build development in this location, Heroes Bridge is going to be asking for a rezoning of that property from an R10 to RPUD, or Residential Planned Unit Development District. In addition to that request, Heroes Bridge is asking for waiving sewer and water connection fees and costs, and a special exemption from the minimum acreage required for an RPUD zone, which is 25 acres. There's good reason for that, by the way. This is a significant request because the purpose of an RPUD, as stated in Warrenton zoning's regulations definition, is providing increased flexibility in the laws governing the development of those areas in Warrenton which are now substantially open land, and encouraging such development in directions that will recognize both the changes in design, technology, and building industry and the new demands of the housing market. That's number one. But those 3.9 acres, they have existing single-family homes that would be surrounded by this plot of land or by this property. And if allowed to proceed, it sets a precedent. And that precedent could be repeated in other neighborhoods and is a concern for the character of the town. I just want to say, I appreciate Heroes Bridge and their no red tape philosophy, but it doesn't apply here. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Chris Gaddy. I live at 306 Church Street in Warrenton, of course, 20186. I live almost directly across from the church, right next to Don, who spoke earlier. My objections to Heroes Bridge are based on two things. The first one is the traffic issue. Those roads are simply not set up and designed to handle that amount of traffic. And it is going to create congestion where we've never really had it before. So I don't think that's manageable in the neighborhood. The other objection is the property values. Like it or not, the American system is set up so the bulk of the average middle class person's wealth is in their property. And anything that's going to affect that in a negative sense is just not going to be acceptable. It's going to generate a lot of opposition, and you will be resisted with this tooth and nail by everyone in the locality. So that is something you might want to take into consideration. I didn't plan on speaking about Amazon. I didn't know this was still an issue, but in regards to these 45 pages of redactions, the only reason I can think of is that either the town has given them some extreme concessions that you don't want us to know about, or they are going to, I guess, be given some exemptions to rules and such as the trees. Either way, you can try to hide it, but eventually I'm sure it's going to come out. So, thank you.
Okay, a few things. I just want to remind the public on October 4th, FEMA is going to do a nationwide testing of the National Alert System, so you're aware of that. Also, yesterday was 9/11, 22 years ago. And, you know, I think about the sacrifice and things like that. And, you know, we should honor people's service for their police and fire and everything else. You know, that's a noble profession. A lot of people don't run into burning buildings. A lot of people don't run after criminals. A lot of good people do. And we should be grateful for that. You know, I had some prepared remarks tonight, but, you know, when people are talking about veterans, you know, I'm a veteran, okay? My family is full of veterans. I had an uncle who was a prisoner of war. Y'all actually shot one of my relatives down here during the Civil War. But anyway, in all seriousness, you know, nobody vetted me to live in Warrenton. And I'm going to tell you something. I do have PTSD, okay? I'm not violent or anything else. I'm a model citizen. Ask my neighbors, okay? And I also was a Chicago police officer too. So, you know, I understand your concerns, okay? I understand the concerns about the traffic and things like that. But, you know, a lot of people don't serve and people do. And we should honor their service. We're broad brushing people that people are drunk or drug users or violent and things like that. It's not fair. It's not fair. That was something, I remember when I joined the Army and I'm old school and everything else, my colonel said to me, he said, the good citizens of Boston, when I came back from Vietnam, spat at me and called me baby killers. No, no. I understand your concerns about home value and things like that. But I've worked with Heroes Bridge, I've gone down to Lynchburg, and I've seen a model, a place like these tiny homes, as you call them. All the veterans there are vetted so they don't have issues and things like that, okay? The other day, speaking of 9/11, I met a gentleman who was a Marine helicopter pilot, left during the first Gulf War, flew for the FBI, flew over World Trade Center numerous times. He's got prostate cancer, okay? So what happens if he somehow takes 2 left turns, is down on his luck, and needs help from an organization like Heroes Bridge? I don't understand it. I don't, okay? I understand your concerns, but I'm gonna tell you, fear in a combat zone is contagious. When you start spouting fear, then people, it grows and grows. And that's one thing, you know, when people ran into World Trade Centers and all that, nobody asked them that they were Democrats or Republicans. No, they were all Americans that day. It was actually the hallmark of our honor and service that day. Now I'm gonna tell you something, shared sacrifice makes you a better person. It makes you look at the downtrodden, people that need our help, okay? And I appreciate veterans and your concerns for your families and things like that. But I am a veteran, I'm a model citizen. And I assure you, from talking to Heroes Bridge, and you should talk to Heroes Bridge, and I will talk with each and every one of you about this, okay? Because I want your views. But also, they're not gonna put people in there that are crazy or anything else. And so, you know, we can look at a lot of things, and you know, we have to look at dialogue and providing solutions, not just fear. Fear is not a good thing. You know, the honor of my lifetime was to wear 2 uniforms. The honor of my lifetime. And I just don't understand, like, how people are uneducated in saying that there's this fear of veterans. You know, we need to honor their service, especially the day after 9/11. There's 343 firefighters that will never come home. There are people that I know that I served with that will never come home. Thank you.